Welcome to your Rocketwoman show. Are you looking to 10x your business while attracting your soulmate, finding eternal happiness and receiving the one solution to all of your problems? I promise you, you will find none of the above in this podcast. Your Rocketwoman has something far more precious for you. We'll get real and talk about the nitty-grittiness of life. From A as in anxiety, to L as in lol, to Z as in zest for life, we'll cover the whole spectrum. All of my guests are my heroes that have inspired me along the way. And here's the totally amazing rocket deal. I chat with my heroes and then they tell me which of their heroes I should invite on the show next. So every other episode we get to expand our universe beyond into the unknown, ever expanding and growing. I hope you enjoy this show, and it's an honor to inspire your rocket launch. Welcome to the Rocketwoman show, and today I'm joined in the universe by Lisa. Hey Lisa, welcome.
Hi Sandra, thank you for having me here.
Yeah, Kathi said I should go speak with you, and it's always my pleasure to follow my my friends' advice and suggestions. And I think it's always just a nice surprise what comes out of these. So I'd love for you to just introduce yourself to me and to the audience, since we've not really had an opportunity to chat properly yet.
Yes, okay. So my name is Lisa Stamper. I'm a psychic medium, spiritual medium. That means I work with people's energy. I do soul readings and mediumship readings, and I also do trance healings. I do most of my offerings online, and I also offer some small classes for awareness and development.
That's great. How long have you been doing that work?
I started my development in mediumship 2018.
Was that by awakening, or was that a planned thing? Because with these things, right, I'd love to hear the backstory of that.
Yes, absolutely. 2017, my dad passed, and that kind of led me on to the journey to dive in a little bit more deeper. I do have to say I've always been interested in the esoteric realms, right? So I always wanted to know what happens after you pass. It was always an interest, even as a kid. And I remember, asking my grandma, right? I was like, if you ever die, you need to promise me if there's any opportunity you have to give me a sign that you're still here, you need to let me know. Okay. So I've always had this innate urge to know what happens after we die, because I always knew this just cannot be it. This cannot be it. There is more out there, but I just didn't get any proof. So, and that all changed actually after my dad passed in 2017.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah, tell us a little bit about that. I'm super curious.
Yes. So what happened was, after my dad passed, somebody suggested to me, why don't you check out this guy? He is a famous Swiss medium. His name is Pascal Vogelhuber. And he was doing some stuff on YouTube, okay, explaining how he works with spirit. And I was like, oh my God, it's that easy. And he had all the answers to all of my questions, okay? And he was very down to earth. He was a cute looking guy, right, with tattoos. And he just said it like, oh yes, so absolutely, when you die, you just go to spirit and that's it. You're not held in some weird place where you need to find the light, so it really resonated with me. It really did. And he offered a weekend course, how to contact a discarnate person, like how to contact spirit. And I was like, okay, I think I'm gonna book this. And if it really works, I'm gonna find out. But I went there, I was like, this is all bullshit. Okay. And I did believe what he said on YouTube and everything, but I was like, okay, so in person, is it really gonna be the same, right? I'm gonna feel the same about everything. It's like, I'm gonna find out this is all bogus. So I booked a course in Nuremberg. I drove to Nuremberg and experienced the energy of my father come through in a meditation. And it was something I've never experienced before because I really felt it. I really felt it. And during this weekend, we also had the opportunity to work in little groups, and where he's like, so, just bring somebody through for spirit for somebody in the group. And I've never done this before. And I just set the intention. And I remember I just seen in my inner eye this lady doing this, okay, like rotating her arms. And I was like, well, that's weird. And I just said, I was like, I think that there's a lady here who's rotating her arms like this. And this one lady said, oh, that's my mom. She's in a wheelchair. And I'm like, what? Are you serious? And the rest is history. I looked for a basic course, which I completed with all the aspects of mediumship. And it's very much based on English spiritualism, which is very down to earth, which was really important for me at the time. So I did that in Frankfurt for a year and been practicing ever since. And last year I sort of came out of the woodworks, right, to be a little bit more seen. Yes.
Yeah, because it's one thing kind of making sense of all of it for yourself, right? Which I think like you're your biggest critic, but then to actually go and be that publicly, right? And actually do that for other people, because that also comes with a huge responsibility. How was that for you? Like trusting that what comes through is actually exactly what needs to be said and is just correct.
It's very scary. It's very scary. And it is, for me, it was a huge process to understand, because when I started to dive into the mediumship journey, it very much led me to a journey of my own healing, which I didn't realize that's going to happen. So I discovered so many things about my human self. So I wasn't aware, for example, how much anxiety I actually have about everything. So it was for me also, to kind of heal myself, sort of, to be to become aware of myself, because I wasn't aware of myself. I was a mom, a wife, I was working, there's all those human things where I didn't concentrate on myself. It really got me into a position where I had to feel,
And then you become more sensitive and more aware of everything. You basically open your awareness, and all of a sudden you become aware of so many aspects that were running the show behind the scenes, right? Or behind the veil, if you will. Yeah.
Exactly.
So, and then I often think, like, when people that don't have that background or that are not on that journey ridicule the awakening and, the whole process, and call them charlatans, or, whatever the label would then be. I think, being aware that this journey comes with the default setting of you have to kind of just look into your own closet or into their own cellar, into the depths, and move through that and heal that. And I think that is something that everybody that I've spoken to before completely underestimated when going into this journey. You think like, oh, fantastic, I'll become like more sensitive, and I'll become more, there's more clarity and there's more wisdom and all of that. And while all of that is true, on the other hand, you become more sensitive, which means that you will pick up on things that are really uncomfortable.
Yes, exactly. And you also, need to come up with the courage to face your own demons, your own fears, and I think that's the most difficult part. to feel all the feelings that I was hiding behind me, that I
Mm.
didn't want to look at, because I was uncomfortable or you were afraid or grief or whatever it is, you have to have the courage to feel it, because that's the
And
only way through it.
exactly, and I think that's what comes up for me when I listen to you say this is the perception is I go into this journey, okay, I'll heal all of what comes up and then I'll be fine. But
No,
A, it's not a linear process, and B, I think
exactly.
the realizations as of late that Rocketwoman has had is that basically you open up your awareness to all of you and you get to feel and witness all of you. And
Yes,
none of this will necessarily go away, but
yes,
you'll be way more sensitive to it. And
yes,
that's that perception that the human is raised in, or the belief that we're raised in, is you should be happy. And when you're not happy, something is wrong.
yeah,
So now all of a sudden, we're on this journey to the light and we go, oh yeah, love and light. And this sounds so nice and so comfy and cozy and safe. We're always
yeah,
looking for safety. So even when you exchange happiness for safety, I think that's what humans are really looking for. And all of a sudden, none of this stability or the belief of what really is important matters anymore. And then how do you deal with that without running into a depression or whatever? How was that for you? And then being a mom on top of that, right?
yeah. Well, that was a lot. How was that for me? I think for me, it was a step-by-step process, and I really took
Mm,
my time. For me, it was important to take my time to really give space for whatever comes up. And I can give a little example here. I was never aware of the behaviors that I had that were actually from my mom. I was never
mm,
aware of that.
yeah.
Like when I said things, that was actually all my mom coming through. But it was
Mm,
not me. It was not my backpack to carry. It was
yeah.
her issues that she had at the time. And I have a really cool mom. Okay. So I talked to her about that, and I was
Mm,
like, it's like, can I like metaphorically just give you that backpack? And she's like,
mm,
absolutely. Oh, it's mine. I'll take it, of course. You don't have to carry that.
mm,
So it was, things like that that helped me really to process through that whole journey. And I don't believe we're ever done in that process or in that journey, because
mm,
we're always learning new things about ourselves. And as we grow into that journey, our belief systems change, and there we get to have new experiences. And
yeah.
based on that, we change again. So
Mm,
nothing actually stays the same, which is also, really, really was really hard for me. I'm a Virgo
yeah.
rising. Okay. I love
Mm,
stability, and I
yeah.
like to know what to expect. Okay. Because I need that, I need that safety. And
Yeah.
but it's all an illusion. It's just the anxiety of my mind, trying to make it safe, but actually, we're just restraining ourselves. And I
Yeah.
think that for me personally, um, it's just like a rubber band, elastic, that I'm just, training, see how
Mm,
far we know we can expand, and sometimes we'll retract, and sometimes, we expand again. And that's
yeah.
okay. And everybody has, their individual process on everything. And
Yeah. That's really, I think like that's the best advice that, we can give to anybody.
yeah,
Find out what your process is. And what I hear from you is that you have a very you approach it, right? Like you said to your grandma, let me know, right? Like is there an after world, or
yes.
something behind the veil? And then you go speak with your mom about the weight that you felt that you carried for her. So
Yeah.
has that always been your approach, or is that something that you needed to develop?
I think that came um that came with me looking into mediumship, actually.
Mm,
You know, that whole realization. I think it's more of a realization, because I realized, oh, this is not actually me. I am saying it, but
Hmm.
that sounds like my mom. Or what I'm doing there is more of my dad.
Hmm.
And the main thing was, who the fuck am I?
Yeah. As
If
everything dissolves and you just see the
yes,
patterns, right? You're like, who's
yes,
running this show?
yes, exactly. So if you realize that, okay, so you might think, so oh yes, so you realize, who the hell am I? Now you get to choose who you are,
Hmm.
right? Or do you? That's like
Yeah.
that was a huge struggle for me. So okay, so I
Yeah.
want to become the medium, but how is that medium going to be? I'm going to be, a tarot reader, or I'm going to work, with spirit. And how is that going to look? With my Virgo rising, I I tend to have these pictures in my mind how certain things should be,
Hmm.
but that's also something that I'm still in the process. Everybody's in the process of, you need
Yeah.
to, let that let yourself have a natural process there. But it's
Hmm.
so hard because we were taught our entire life, you have to do this and you have to be like that. And my
Yeah.
kid actually put it really, really, really sweet. And she said, she's so smart. She said, Mom, your entire life I saw you and I watched you try to fit in a box
Hmm.
that was just not meant for you.
Hmm.
And she
How
said,
old
I'm
is she?
so she just turned 22 in
Hmm.
August. And she said,
Little
I'm so
fuckers,
happy.
right? That's so
Yes, yes, they're so smart. And they're so
yeah.
young and they're so smart, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, where did you get that from?
Yeah. And that's also I mean, when we talk about conditioning and how
Yeah,
we were raised to be part of a world that isn't quite all of the truth,
no,
and then you raise your kid, I raise my kids, they're roughly the same age, 21, 23 soon. Um, maybe, and that's my hope anyway, that something stayed alive for them to look through while they were becoming who they are,
mm-hmm,
that they're able to cut through the bullshit much faster. And because my
yeah,
kids basically said something similar to me, when we talk about their earlier childhood, that they say, yeah, but you were never really there.
yeah,
You were never really you. It
yeah.
was so difficult to reach you. And that was the
Wow,
time when I was, they were, I think, yeah, probably in their very early teens, maybe 8, 9, when I was really starting my journey properly.
yeah,
I've been on my journey for over 20 years, but I think like when it really got serious for me,
yeah,
um, so as they moved into puberty, into that
yeah,
special phase of their life, they saw the whole dismantling of my identity,
yeah,
right? Like what I thought I was, who I thought I had to be, and all of
yeah,
that stuff. So I don't think that they have a recollection of me without this process, which hit me the other
yeah,
day that, there's still a part of me that judges myself for that. Like, I'm a
yeah,
constant work and process and in progress all of the
yeah,
time. Like you say, it doesn't stop, right? Like just because I've been on this journey for so long and I have a good connection with myself doesn't
right,
mean that I'm, exempt from, yeah, needing to feel the feelings, like you say,
yeah,
and being open
yeah,
about it. I think also making that absolutely clear that that is absolutely okay. My daughter always, like, when she gets overwhelmed because things, life is just very demanding, and she sees me
right,
in a process, she's like, yeah, but you're a coach. you know I'm like, that doesn't say fuck all. I'm
no,
still a human being that just tries to make it through, because when you're
yeah,
in something,
yeah,
you're not always the brightest, you're not always the most
no,
insightful person, right?
no, no, when you're going through it, right? You can't hear and you can't do anything like, oh, you just, need to love yourself right now. Yes, yes. I mean, that's
Barf.
that one's, you know, and you want to sucker punch somebody who says that,
Hmm.
you know, like you just have to look, you just have to love yourself at this moment just a little more. Makes you, you know, makes me really, really mad when I think
Yeah.
triggers,
So
right?
it's
It
both
really
true,
does.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
it is the solution
Uh,
to everything. But I think in
yes,
those
but
moments to hold yourself gently and say, like, I can't help myself right now. It just sucks. You know, this just fucking
exactly.
sucks. Yeah.
Exactly. And, you know, it has the right to suck, you know, because not
Yeah.
everything is our ponies and rainbows. It just isn't. You know, life is messy, earth is messy.
Hmm.
You know, I think we can't just bypass that by saying, you
No, and
know,
what does it even mean to be an adult, right? Or to be mature?
that is,
It's it's not about like, oh, do you have a big bank account, or do you have like a important, powerful position in your profession?
yeah,
For me, maturity, true maturity is knowing who you are, right?
yes,
And then just being really honest with yourself and with everybody
yes,
in your life. And that does so not look at all like um, the image that we were given when we were raised by our previous generations, right? Because that was
no,
still, I remember the first time that I looked at my parents when I was 16, thinking like, they have no fucking clue what they're doing.
yes,
They don't
exactly.
even know who they are. And everything came tumbling down for me. That
Yeah,
feeling of, again, stability,
yeah,
safety, it's all good, they've got you, this is
yeah,
your safe zone here, and none of this is true, right?
no,
And at the same time, I had the most protected um parent daughter connection that really is so safe because there's so much love, but
right.
none of that artificial construct of
Yeah.
we have it figured out.
Yeah, nothing. It's the biggest misconception I've had,
Hmm.
you know, as a child, as a teenager or a young adult, you know, that other adults have it figured out. They don't.
Hmm.
It's the first time for them to be an adult. It's the first time for them to be 31 or 34 or 40 or 50 or whatever the fuck it is, right?
Hmm.
It's for the first time for them too, and they're just trying to figure it out, just like we do. They just, you know, try to guide. And some parents are good at it, some parents are not good at it, you know, depending on your perception here, you know, because
Hmm.
what some parents you might think they're great, right? But you don't live with them. You just have this
Yeah.
view of them, right? But really to have them as parents might not be so great. So I think it's
Yeah.
all uh, it's difficult. It's difficult because it's
Hmm.
all just our perception, how we see
And so
things,
much
how we
of that,
believe.
it would be great if it was linear, right? And
Yeah,
if it was just moving on this journey and then eventually you get there. But as we're changing and growing into our very personal way of being aware of who we are, the world
right.
is changing too. I mean, everything is up
Yeah,
in the air at the moment. Let's talk about that a little bit,
yeah,
like how that maybe having been on the journey for a little while or for a few years, like you and me, coming to a place where you know yourself, and then you think like, okay, now it's good, and then you look out into the world and you go like, that's a
yeah,
mess. You
yeah.
know?
Well, I know for me with the work that I do, I feel I'm just scratching the surface.
Mhm.
And depending on what you believe again, okay, it's also going to be your limitations that you have.
Mhm.
Because a lot of times, you know, we I mean, if you feel into the atmosphere, right, you just know there's so much more out there, you know, there has to be. I know it.
Mhm.
Just, you know, like you have the feeling that there's, you know, the spiritual realm as well, you know, there
Mhm.
is more out there to this physical experience. But where does it go? I have no idea, and I don't think we can wrap our brain around it.
And
I
I
don't
think
think
we're
it's
not supposed to,
I don't
I
even think it's possible with our
mm-mm.
because that's, you know, let's be honest, it's just 2-pound swobbly mass in our head. Okay, I don't think we have the capability of understanding, you know, complex structures of the universe.
Yeah, and it wouldn't serve, right, to know it all. I mean, what's the point?
No.
And I think like the big changes, again, the human needs to go through it, right? Like the human part, that's the
Yeah.
experiencer, and the one in the physical form needs to move
Yeah.
through it, and just has certain requirements that keep evolving too. Like
Yes.
I think now, being 49, I don't think that I need the same things that I thought I did, right? But it's
Yeah.
constantly evolving, like we've said before. So with the world being in the state that it is, I think it's so important also that people come out of their shells, of their individual private process, private
Mm-hmm.
journey, um, awakening, and all of that. It takes a
Yep.
while, but it's so important to have some solid self-knowingness out there and available for other people to tap into as well.
Yeah. I mean, you can already feel the whole atmosphere changing. Okay, you can really feel it changing, and I feel for me when I look back now a few years ago, it all started, okay, with I call it the Rainbow Kids. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
about them saying, no, fuck this. You're not going to put a label on me. Okay, I'm going to be whoever I want to be, and I no longer fit in your description,
Mm-hmm.
a man or a woman. And I feel it's all those kids, all that the generation of those kids that were actually, standing up and saying, fuck the system, okay? It's gonna be colorful and it's gonna be different, okay? And that's what's needed for a cultural change, even on a, on a really big scale here. And I think
Mm-hmm.
I know that they're playing a huge part in that to change society, which is really needed.
Yeah, and I think they're the first generation that do not require a spiritual journey, because in a way the changes that come while they're now growing into their maturity or adulthood, and become important players in the world of
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, like CEO level, or just reimagining the whole world and society.
Yeah.
um, it's kind of important that they're here,
Oh yeah.
and that they're not like in airy fairyland like we maybe were, right, on our
Yep.
path. So I also think that's why the whole spiritual industry is changing so much at the moment.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, okay, so I'm born 82. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I went to school, late 80s, early 90s, you couldn't be different. You
Mm.
would get
Where did you
people would,
grow up?
so I was born 82. So I went to first grade 89 or 80,
Yeah,
89.
where was that, where you grow
Oh,
up?
in Germany. In Germany. I was
Yeah.
born and raised in Germany.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, you couldn't be different.
Mm-hmm.
You would get punched. Okay. And there was like no awareness of teachers or anybody, that kids can be different,
Mm-hmm.
it's not allowed,
I had a lot of very old teachers, so
yeah, me
just
too.
that generational thing, yeah.
I
And I
I
I went to school in the early 80s, so
yeah.
there wasn't
Yes.
much progressiveness going on there,
No,
no.
not at all. I had first no second grade teacher. We still had to pray in school in the morning.
Mhm.
It's like unheard of today. Like,
We
I
needed to
don't do
stand
that.
up to greet the
Yep.
teacher in the
Yep.
morning. But
Yep. I
it's
had to
it's
do the
really
same.
interesting. Like every time I kind of talk about it, I can't help myself but catch that feeling of, oh, that's exactly what my parents would say, like, oh, back in the days when we needed
Yes.
to walk to
Yes.
school for 5 hours and back for five in the deep
Yes.
snow. But yes.
Yes. It's funny. So in a way, it kind of repeats itself.
Mm,
But yet we're kind of on a, journey towards ourselves and through our own authenticity.
mhm.
So
Yeah,
maybe,
so it repeats itself. I think the need for acknowledging the maturity and the wisdom that we carry, that repeats itself,
Yeah.
right? So that's where that comes from. Like, oh,
Right.
what I went through, this is peanuts, whatever you're going through.
Yeah.
So that repeats itself, but time is speeding up, energy is speeding up so much, consciousness is transcending all over.
Yeah.
That's why, we have this rainbow generation. We have these
Mm-hmm.
people that don't need labels, that are,
Yeah.
doing everything that they can to just break out of those old
Yes.
shells. And let's talk a little bit about that. Like, do you get insight when you connect with the other realms? Do you get
Mm-hmm.
any insight into where we're headed to?
Well, as you're saying that, okay, I'm like, okay, so where we're heading to? We're heading to a massive awakening,
Mm-hmm.
okay, but very individualized, okay. So,
Mm-hmm.
let's say, um, like the generations, they're like in their 60s, 70s now. They're gonna have a different awakening than, like,
Mm-hmm.
for example, us, or our kids now. So it's going to be very individualized. But on a mass scale, they're showing me the huge word of awakening, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And also the awareness, okay? And where this is going to lead everybody in a really, I feel, and I want to say that's going to be in a very positive direction here.
Mm-hmm.
I feel it's going to be in a very positive direction. On the other side, okay, I also know, okay, that positive change and awakening, okay, it can be messy, okay, and it comes with, sweat and tears sometimes, okay,
Mm-hmm.
but it's going to be different for every individual. There's not going to be a broadband, um, fix for this, or like awakening. It's not going to be the same for everyone. It's going to be very, very different. But I
Mm-hmm.
think there's going to be the generally awareness of that we're really all connected. And I think that awareness is going to lead us into a very, very positive direction.
Yeah, so I think, again, that brings us back to the beginning of our conversation, talking about like happiness is the end all be
Yes.
all solution, or, reason for you to be here.
Oh,
And I think knowing where we're headed, and I feel it too, and I know that whoever's listening has their own tuning
hmm
into that. It is beyond words
hmm
beautiful. It's beyond expansive. There is no reference point that we have yet. It's just a very heartfelt presence that we're
yes,
beginning to embody now. But like you say, the road to get there won't necessarily be comfortable and nice. And I think that that's the part where, depending on where you are in your own journey, you still try to intervene or meddle, or like discuss. Yeah, but I don't want to give up that comfort, but that's how it should be, and that's what I thought I needed to be. So it's the whole tumbling down of identity, old structure, the old
yes,
yeah, the everything old, right? The old patterns
yeah,
of what we thought would work, but that just doesn't. And I think that
exactly.
that's the part where I'm really curious about, like, your intuition here. Where was the switching point, and was it always going to be like that?
Mm. You mean on a like global scale, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think I think it was meant to happen. And
Mm-hmm.
I think the switching point is the rainbow generation.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where it really starts on a global scale, where it can be felt everywhere, because everybody's being confronted with it in some way or another,
Mm-hmm.
if
and
they
and
want to or not.
stuff like the pandemic, for example, that would
Oh,
be just
yes.
the consequences of that, right? Just the consequence of, we need something to
Mhm.
happen that
Well,
um creates the space for change.
yeah. I mean, what did the pandemic really show us, really tell us there? I mean, I don't
Mm.
know how honest I can be here. Okay, I'll just be honest.
Well,
Okay, what I feel here. Okay,
be a rocket
but with
woman.
the yes, to me, it was about power and control. It's about, presenting dominance from, governments, because everybody, always thinks things were so free on this planet. But how free are you if you don't have a passport of movement? You know what I mean? So there's I feel there's a really that's another awakening I think that's going to happen, is on a political scale, where but I mean it already is. People are calling out political bullshit all the time, and people know it. They're like, oh, that's fucked up. But nobody's actually doing anything anymore. So I feel that's also kind of interesting to watch how this all works. And I think a lot of the systems are going to crumble because it can't continue like this anymore. Because you can just see the greed. Okay, it's like so obvious. It's so obvious.
Well, I think again, so many things are working in that favor of being more transparent now, right? Like we've got the internet, like all of the stuff that we didn't necessarily grow up with in our childhood. All of the sudden, these things come to light very, very fast and very quickly. Technology is really blowing everything wide open, and it's a representation for consciousness in my eyes. Like that's how I see it. It's really just technology is expanding so quickly because consciousness is expanding so quickly. So it will be really interesting to see. I'm not a political person at all. Again, everybody that knows me knows to not have political discussions with me because I'm just not invested. But to just observe it, to just stand behind your short wall and just observe it and go like, "Ooh, wow." It could like the feeling that I had in the beginning of this year was we won't even, at the end of this year, we won't even know who we were anymore. Like, things are changing already so quickly, but I do think that it's still tickling down. We still need to do maybe another year and a half or so, I feel, of the old extremely resisting those changes. And then there'll be the rebuilding phase. That's really how I feel. What's your insights?
Like I said, I think it's gonna be a very individual experience. So if you see it as very fast paced and very growing, and you have the analogy of the technology and consciousness, expanding, I feel, because that's what you believe, and that's how you're aware of it, that's how you're going to experience it. Okay, somebody else with a different belief system is going to experience the whole thing in a whole nother level, and you might not even going to be able to compare it, but it doesn't make yours less true than the other person's. You know what I mean? But it's all in a moving, like in a moving motion. But I don't think we can like pinpoint exactly, on a global scale how it's going to be. I think the individual feeling and awakening and awareness is really going to play point here. And yes.
And I think that's such a good point also to make, or to become aware of, that basically it is individual, and we're coming from a very set in stone collective way of perceiving into that individual way of perceiving. So to also, I think we're forced out of our judgments, right? Like if you look at humanity, the way that I remember it, the way that I grew up, the way that I observed the world, it was very judgmental, because black and white, this is how you're supposed to do things. And the ones that didn't do it the way they were, they weren't really actually following the truth or following the right path or whatever. And I think that now becomes so obvious through all of those many different ways of doing it individually, that work for the people. I mean, again, this is my perception. The way that I look at anybody fucking up their lives or succeeding in their life, it's their path, who am I to say anything about anyone, right? There is no you should be or why don't you. That's also why I think
Yeah.
like the coaching style, my coaching style changes so much these days because I have
Yeah.
just so much compassion for everybody that is alive these days, and whoever is
Yes.
alive is in the process, whether they're aware of it or not.
Yes, exactly. And it was, I think, Buddha who says the everybody's goal, everybody just wants to be happy, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
think Buddha or Lao Tzu or whatever, so one of these people said that everybody's goal is just to be happy. And it's true. This is really,
Mm-hmm.
really true. Everybody just seeks happiness for themselves. It's just gonna come in all different ways, shapes, and forms, depending on your belief system and how you go through life. But at the end of
Yeah.
the day, the person who has road rage, in the car, or, a really rude cashier, whatever, throws your groceries across the van, they all want to be happy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And then, the programming of what the soul thought that this lifetime needed, what kind of energy. And then we come to astrology or human design,
Mhm. Yes.
and the role that that plays, that basically the way that you're designed, the way that, your Virgo rising
Yeah.
perceives or is in this world, or my Cancer rising, Aries sun,
Yeah.
Leo moon, like all of those
Oh,
constellations, none of it is happening by accident. I think
no.
oftentimes the homogenized world of this is how you should learn, this is how you should do school, this is how you should,
Yeah.
proceed in life, is very much based on, this is how it used to work. But for me, for example, you also know of human design,
Hmm.
I bet you do, right?
Yes. A
um
little bit. Yeah.
yeah, so in a way, there is like the way that the mind perceives, and the mind is structured, and the way that you perceive through your human senses is very
Right.
different individually depending on your design. And for me, I'm just a very passive observer. I'm not the logical structured thinker, but I was raised to try to be one.
Yeah.
And then you collect all of the traumas and the dramas because it just doesn't fit. So
Exactly.
again, the rainbow kids, I think, are really pushing that door wide open.
Yeah. Yeah. They're all saying, "Fuck you guys. We're gonna
Yeah.
do it this way." And it's also, I think, what they're going through. I mean, it's not always easy. It's really hard what they actually choose to do. They're choosing to stand up against a whole bunch of millennials
Hmm.
and Gen Xers. It's like standing my ground, like, no, I'm not gonna do it your way anymore. I'm gonna be different. It's also at the same time an invitation to everybody, okay? Everybody who has a kid who comes out as trans or whatever. It's an invitation to yourself. Where
Yeah.
where are you not living your authentic truth and self?
Hmm.
Where are you not being honest? Where do you wanna, maybe not do that job anymore, or,
Yeah.
switch a career, or why are you doing that? You don't like to do that. Like,
Hmm.
why are you eating spaghetti all the time? You
Yeah.
actually like Caesar salad. Like, why are you doing that? You know? And I think with astrology and human design played a huge role in my development as well, because it really, really helped me understand
Hmm.
aspects of myself. For example, I have my Chiron in the ninth house in Taurus.
Hmm.
So my core wound are in my belief systems. And I
Yeah.
never, you know, and when I look back how I grew up, okay, my parents were both not in the church. They both
Hmm.
denounced, their church. They didn't want to have anything to do with that. But we moved into a really, really small town,
Mm.
okay? And I was about 4 or 5 years old. And the first, when I was at the playground, and the older village ladies came, said, "Oh, who's this child? We've never seen her before." And they were like, "Oh, so what church do you belong to? Are you
Hmm.
Catholic or are you Protestant?"
Yeah.
And I would say, "Nothing."
Hmm.
And they would be like, "Oh my God, she's
Yeah.
Asian," I was the devil child, like, oh my God, but it started with those really, really, small things where for me, I thought something was wrong with me,
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't fit in. So, but I also learned through the astrology that is something with my belief system that I'm gonna carry that through my life, you know? So
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna let whatever hurt or whatever, I'm not gonna let that bring me down as much anymore,
Mm-hmm.
I know now I'm valid just as I am. And
Yeah.
I'm here to be heard and to be seen and to shine my light, okay, as much as I want to. Okay. So,
Yeah.
but with that in mind, I know this is always going to be a subject somewhere, somehow.
Yeah. And looking into life purpose, and I mean, you can do that through astrology, through human design, or other,
Mm,
other techniques. If you really boil it down, it will be something that resonates. It will be something like coming to your purpose of why you're here. You will just be
right,
like, oh, I've always done that. It's always been something that, has been transpiring throughout my life. And for
yeah.
example, I've got Mercury in the early degree of Taurus. I got 1 degree of Taurus. And I've got my sun on 29 Aries. So in human design, it's the same gate, right?
Hmm.
So it's gate 3. It's the gate
Okay.
of chaos.
Ah,
So part of my purpose is to stir things up just by my
yeah,
way of seeing the world, perceiving the world, and expressing myself,
right.
right? But you ruffle a lot of feathers, and if I've got Saturn in my rising house, so in Cancer, that's not
Hmm.
a place that Saturn is really happy in. But it was interesting for me to learn all about that and not to actually do something with it, but to make sense of, oh,
Right.
that's why it's always been this way for me. And if I just stop resisting
Yeah.
or stop judging it as bad, I can actually see that that's exactly what I came here with. And that's exactly what I should be doing. And I have to become more comfortable and more assertive in
Right.
following my heart
Yes. Exactly. Exactly.
and
I
then
can
passing
believe.
that on to the kids and um, speaking that truth in every possible way whenever you can. I think that's
Yeah.
the way of making a change. And in the beginning of my journey, I really thought like, oh yeah, my purpose probably going to be like something really meaningful. And all of this is so meaningful. Just, even if nobody ever heard of us,
Right.
nobody ever listened to this podcast, nobody ever did anything with anything that I've ever said, it
Right.
is so meaningful because I'm living it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes. How did it change for you how you see your kids when you did their charts for human design and astrology?
Oh, so much.
Right.
I mean, I was already on my path. I think like astrology
Yeah.
was always something I was just casually interested in
Hmm.
when they were little. I was aware of their sun and rising and moon, but not any other context. And
Right.
I think in the recent years, as I really dove deeper into both astrology and human design and looking at the way that they're designed, I just go like, you can't make this shit up.
Right.
It's so, I mean, my son is a 1-3 generator, emotional generator, and
Hmm.
my daughter is a 4-6 emotional projector. And I'm a 4-6 sacral manifesting generator.
Wow.
Um, I think all of the constellation is an accident either. So
Wow.
it's really interesting to see what we all came in with into this
Yeah.
big soup here in this family soup, and
Right.
now we're kind of just allowing everybody to do their thing, not needing to change anybody. And I mean, my son's struggling with mental health issues, um, and allowing him to be exactly like he is. And that
Yeah.
was difficult for me as a mother, seeing him
Yeah.
struggle and
Yeah.
being on my coaching and therapy,
Right.
sort of path, and not needing him to change, to
Yeah.
allow him to
Oh,
make the decisions for himself.
yeah.
If he wants to go on antidepressants, if he wants to do this or that, right?
Yeah.
No matter what my idea about these things were. So the spiritual righteousness, the spiritual ego, and even the power games that are played when you're still unaware on that path. But
Mm-hmm.
life, never disappoints. Life throws you these examples into your experience so that you grow from them. And, none of this is by accident. So I embrace all of it. And yeah, embracing the uncomfortable, that's definitely something that is a
Yeah.
constant thing in my life.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. But it is through I mean, I think that's for a lot of people, right? The uncomfortableness that we have to go through in order to grow
Yeah.
and also reflect, it's not comfortable at all to sit in your
But
own.
that's again, bringing that into astrology, the
Yep.
tension that you can feel in anybody's personal chart, right? There
Yeah.
is, I mean, it's quadrants, right? There's oppositions, there's just stuff
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't necessarily feel like it makes sense. It's,
Yeah.
but that's exactly what's needed in order to grow. There is tension needed. There is really the friction needed in order to make that diamond,
Yeah.
right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And yeah, and sometimes it's just about, breaking down systems that are no longer needed within yourself, inside or outside.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And I know that I'm a futurist in that sense, that I'm here for those changes. And I'm also a very, very scared little puppy on the sidelines
Yeah.
going through this process and then thinking like, she's turning 50 next year. I should have things way more figured out. I should be way more stable. What have I achieved in this lifetime? How many more years do I have? So,
Yeah. But that's just
these
your
things.
mind.
Yeah,
That's just
yeah,
that's
exactly.
just
Which brings me to a great segue. Kathi, who suggested you to be my guest,
yeah.
uh, has that one question for you. I always make them ask one or pass one question on. So her question for you was, how do you speak to and handle your own mind?
Yeah. I mean, I'm a Virgo rising. So my mind, I can be very, very hard on myself. And
Mm-hmm.
my mind, and a lot of years of my life, my mind was very, very destructive. Very,
Mm-hmm.
very destructive. So now it's not so destructive anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But it was kind of a process to realize that I'm not my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm listening to my mind, okay, but I don't have to do everything what my mind tells me to do, right? But it required some kind of understanding and realization that I'm not my mind, and well, I
Mm-hmm.
can kind of separate that. So how do we do that though, right? That's a big thing. How do we do that? I think what is really helpful is to set the intention. And for me, because I was very, very negatively destructive with my mind, especially in my teenage years and young adult as well, was very negative, very pessimistic.
Mm-hmm.
It's about, I think it changed a lot
Mm-hmm.
with gratitude, going through the process. And our mind can be our biggest enemy. And at the same time, our mind is our most powerful tool that we have.
Yeah.
So it is with intention that we can set it to be destructive or empowering.
Mm-hmm.
But it always comes with intention, and we have to be aware of the intention
Yeah.
that we set. And sometimes, a lot of times, our mind just plays programs in the background, right? Just like, and you're just like,
Yeah.
what the hell is even work? Where does this
Or the
shit even
constant
come from?
narrator, right?
Yes. Oh my God. It's like, okay. And then another thing is like, we sometimes, we give our mind too much credit in things where we
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't.
Yeah.
a lot of times, if I look, my mind, for example, okay, and it sounds a bit weird, okay? So when I say this, my mind told me, okay, that my mom never allowed me to have anything pink because my mom doesn't like the color pink and she didn't like Barbies when I grew up, okay? And my mind told me, I believed that I was never allowed to have anything pink.
Yeah.
And I was really upset about that shit.
Mm-hmm.
I was
Yeah.
really, really, really upset. But then something really funny happened. I was at my grandma's house and I looked through a photo album and there was a picture of me wearing a pink jacket. Then there was a picture of me wearing a pink hat, pink shoes, pink teddy bear, pink bicycle, pink fucking everything. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So, what I'm trying to say here is
Yeah, I get you.
sometimes, our mind is just full of baloney,
Yeah.
absolutely full of baloney. And then it's up to us to believe it.
Yeah.
I choose to believe it. But, universe, really, really, I'm so happy and thankful for the experience because it showed me like, hey, your mind is telling you something. It's not fucking true.
Mm-hmm. But what
So,
did it serve?
what did it serve? It served me to to not believe everything my mind says to me.
Mm-hmm.
That those stories, because it's all just a pattern, right? A negative pattern, right? That's what it was that was playing. Like
Mm-hmm.
you were not allowed to do this. You were not allowed. Your mama didn't let you allowed to have anything pink, right?
And that's just the self talk or the self perception. But there's also this other people tell you, oh, you've always been like this and you always do
Oh,
this. And
yeah.
it's like a
Jeez.
reinforcing thing.
Oh, yes, for sure. I'm a generator. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
3-5 generator.
Mm-hmm.
Sacral.
Authority.
So yeah, sacral authority. So and I think a lot of generators struggle with that. And I think also manifesting generators is that we kind of try to adapt of what is expected of us.
People pleasing.
Yep, people pleasing, big
Yeah.
time, big
Yeah.
time. Yeah, it can be really hard because for me growing up, I hated school, for example. I was not
Mm-hmm.
good at school. I didn't like going to school. I skipped a lot of school.
Mm-hmm.
I got into all kinds of trouble when I was a teenager. I was not a nice human being. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So um people didn't expect much of me. And
Mm-hmm.
so I kind of, really, really made sure, okay, that they were right in a way.
Mm. Wow, yeah.
Okay. So it has really, really let me down to a not so nice path. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But it came again, for me, it was self-realization, like, no, I don't want to try. I don't want to do this anymore. And
Mm-hmm.
it's maybe where my 3-5 comes in, where I need to try things out. And if they don't
Yeah.
work, okay, I'm going to move on. And I think that's what happened throughout my life, where I tried out things. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
no, this is not working for me. So I'm going to move on. So it came easy to me to move on if I felt not comfortable or if I didn't want to do
Mm-hmm.
something anymore.
But the 3-5 also, the 3-5s that I've met, uh, also having this friction between the 3 and the 5, the projection field, right? So you have a lot of trial and error, but then also on the other hand, with the way that people perceive you as the 5, you want to universalize through projection, right?
Mm,
So
mm,
always by kind of being caught between trying to live up to the expectation of others or to the projection of others, and allowing yourself the trial and error.
yeah, I think the most important thing here is to realize that I didn't have to do it like other people say it. They
Mm-hmm.
think of me, you know. And that's where it comes in again. Who the fuck am I? Who am I?
Mm-hmm.
And that's all in this process. Who am I? I feel, I'm a very kind person. I have a big heart, a great listener, and that's the person I want to be, and that's the person who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And if other people think, you should be doing this, and I see you as that, I always try to stay within my energy and see, is that really what I want? Do I want to try this out or not?
And that's the part that becomes easier, I feel. Like
Yeah.
the more you know yourself, the more you love yourself,
Yes.
the more you can just allow others to have any kind of perception about you. Like for me, it doesn't matter anymore. But the interesting
Yeah.
part is consciously, I really know that it doesn't matter.
Right.
But there's still patterns where the
Yes.
underlying motor is people pleasing, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's something that really has come into my awareness a lot over the past months, where those parts are still active. When,
Yeah.
and then putting that again together with astrology, for example, and knowing, I've got my Mars in the ninth house in Pisces,
Mm.
right? There is a certain assertiveness where I've always felt it,
Yeah.
but I've never allowed myself to be that,
Yes.
right? And now to go like, okay, that's done, that's not important anymore. But again, I think especially living in times where everything, all of the results come so fast and so quickly, nobody has an attention span anymore. We don't allow the process to take its time. And that's why I love Richard Rudd from the Gene Keys, and the way that he says, like, everything like in the process is it's like a tea. It needs time to sit, and it needs time to breathe, and it needs time to sleep,
Yeah.
and just, I think that's really, the older I get, the more I slow down and become aware of just
Yeah.
being gentle, being kind, being
Yes.
attentive, and intentful.
Yes. Yes.
Just
Yes.
really, really being very present with what is, and allowing myself to be slower. And Mercury and
Mhm.
Taurus is actually really helping me with that.
That's
I don't
good.
have a fast mental process. I just don't. But I always thought I had to. And therefore, I was
Right.
always overwhelmed and
Yeah.
frazzled, right? And
Yes.
now I go like, no, I don't. It's all good. I can do my pace. And that's also
Yeah.
something when you have kids and look at them and look at their design. And my daughter is also slower.
Hmm.
But does that mean, like when you allow her the space, she catches so many details that other people just don't.
Right.
So again, I think when anybody who's listening to this still has a part of themselves that they deny, really look at, what those gifts are underneath,
Yes.
because there's always something that really wants to shine in this world, and that sort of, I think it's also a responsibility to bring forward.
Yes. Absolutely. Because that's some way. I think that's why we came here.
Mm,
To be that unique expression our of ourselves,
yeah.
and together, we all weave, this beautiful, tapestry of
Mm,
consciousness.
yeah. That's beautiful. Switching gears, we're coming
Yes.
to the 6 questions I always ask all of my guests.
Okay.
So just shoot what comes up
Hmm.
first, and we'll just go with that. What skill would you like to have?
What school?
Skill.
Oh, what skill? Oh, what skill? Um, oh, what skill? I think I would, does it have to be a realistic skill? No, I
Nope.
would like, I would like to be invisible sometimes.
Oh,
I would like the coach,
yeah, the Harry Potter code. Yeah,
the Harry Potter code. Yeah.
yeah, love that. That's great. If you could spend an hour with anyone, dead or alive, or a fictional character, who would it be, and what would you be doing?
Okay. Yes. So I would like to spend an hour with Gordon Higginson, and I would love to have attended a physical seance with him,
Mm.
a physical
Tell,
mediumship
tell
seance.
us the ones that don't know him. Tell us who he
Okay, so
is.
Gordon Higginson was a medium in the UK. He was the president of the Spiritualist National Union, and he made sure the for Finley College as a college where people internationally can go to study mediumship and psychic
Mm.
science. And he was a medium since he was a child, and he was one of the most phenomenal mediums in the world.
Mm.
And he's just so interesting what he did. And he was a physical medium, which means when they did seances, spirit would okay, so there would ectoplasm would come out of him. Okay, this is a substance come out of his body, and people would be able to see it in the room because there's a red light, and then there would be spiritual manifestations through that ectoplasms, or even apports. Okay, so people would see actually their loved ones come walk in the room. Okay, or just spiritual apports like roses or flowers, which is magically appear in the room and nobody would know where they come from. So, and back in the day, they would do that a lot. Okay. And I would have loved to attend one of the seances that he would have done. Yeah.
When was that?
He was, when did he was active, I think, as a medium his entire life, but especially in the 80s and 90s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, bridge builder. Love that. Great. If you were president of the world or the new earth,
Mhm.
what would your first law be that you would implement?
Self-accountability.
Mm. Hallelujah. Yeah, that would
I
change things
think
quickly.
absolutely. And, and with that, everybody, seeing the consequences of their words, of their actions on a
Mm.
bigger scale immediately.
Mm. Yeah, that sounds great. I'd vote for you. What's your most controversial opinion?
Um, what's my worst controversial opinion? Hmm. I have to think about that one for a second.
This is where I
I'm
put
not
in the
sure.
jingle.
Yes, yes. Put in the jingle. I'm not sure. What's my word? What's that controversial opinion that I have? Yeah, I have a controversial opinion. Well, is it controversial or just a lot of people are going to be like, what the hell? But I guess that's the point, right?
Mhm.
Um, I think I think I don't know. Can I skip that one?
Yeah,
I
you
don't
can
know.
also skip it.
Yeah, I think I'll skip that one. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll
that's
skip that
fine.
one.
No need to tie the brain into knots. Um, then what's your favorite book or movie or song of all time and why? Any of them
Mm,
or all of them?
yeah, so my favorite movie would be Forrest Gump
Mm,
because he's so present
yeah,
and life just happens and he just goes with it.
yeah. He runs with it.
And yes, he runs with it. He does. So I love that. Um, then favorite music. Um, I love AC/DC.
Mm.
I love Thunderstruck. It's my
Okay,
ringtone. And I just went to an AC/DC concert, so I really like
really, that's
AC/DC.
awesome.
Um, yes. And then what else? What else?
A book,
Movie, book, book. Oh, geez, there's so many books. Um,
if none spring to mind, that's also fine.
yeah, I'm gonna yes. So the biography of Gordon Higginson, that was one of my
Mm-hmm.
favorite books. Yeah.
Okay,
By
probably really
the
interesting.
side of the angels. That's what it's
Mm.
called.
Okay, thank you. Now, I think there's only one more. What are you most excited about in the future, personal or collective?
Mm. What I'm most excited about is about I'm just excited about life in general.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really curious about what is all going to happen and how it's all going to unfold. I'm really excited about that.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
know, I'm really excited to see how we're going to live like 10 years from now. I'm getting
Mm-hmm.
really excited about that, you
Yeah.
know, and I'm really looking forward to experience everything. I guess I just have a
Yeah.
general excitement about life.
But that's yeah, I can totally relate to that. I mean, just knowing we live in the most exciting times ever and just keeping that meta view on, like where we headed, this is super exciting. Love that.
Yeah.
Where can people find you and your work?
Yes. You find me on Instagram, Lisa Stamper Medium. Or I got a website. It's lisasheartspace.com.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Great. Well, I love chatting with you. And it just always amazes me how organic these conversations are. It just flows. And I think we've touched on so many things that are inspiring. I hope that our audience enjoyed this as well. Yeah, and I wish you all the very, very best, Lisa.
Yes. Thank you so
Thanks
much.
for
Thank you so
joining.
much. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Yeah, thank you so much. Take care, Lisa.
You
Bye.
too. Bye.
Thanks for tuning into the Rocketwoman Show. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please like and subscribe, leave a comment, and share it with your universe. We can always inspire each other's orbits. All episodes are available on YouTube and Spotify, and new ones are always released on a Friday. For updates, you can find me on Instagram at The Rocketwoman Show, and if you're interested in my work as a guidance coach, I work with human design, the gene keys, astrology, and plenty of other intuitive wisdom that I've collected over the past 20 years. So if that resonates, go and check out my website, thezencubator.com, or follow the Zen Cubator on Instagram or Facebook. I wish you a magical week and hope to welcome you back next time.